Our next talk is going to be starting now. So the next talk is by Anthony Russell, who's going to be talking about bug bounty recon bypassing Geographic, DNS, and Ensemble. He's a professional .NET developer, hobbyist, hardware dev, published over 50 Windows Phone apps, spoken at a lot of conferences. So let's give him a round of applause and get started. Over to you.
Thank you so much. All right. Wow, what a great introduction. So this talk is geo-distributed bug bounty recon, bypassing things like geographic DNS and more with this new free open source tool called Ensemble. This is me. My name is Anthony Russell. I go by the handle .NET Russell. I'm a professional software engineer. I've been an engineer for about 11 years. I've worked on various systems for lots of boring stuff, but mostly in C# and F#, lots of Python, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. If you're interested in more about what I do and what I've done, you can check out my blog, .netrussell.com. If you want to reach out to me personally, you can hit me up on Twitter at .netrussell. And all of the code that I'm going to be presenting today, I won't actually show you code, so don't worry, no boring code. But if you're interested in the tool itself, it can be found on my GitHub, which is /.netrussell, and the tool is called Ensemble. All right, so before I get into the tool, I want to briefly talk about kind of the hacker journey, like how I got here, how I wrote this tool, why I wrote this tool, and I hope that it resonates with some of you, because I think a lot of us take similar paths. So early on, when I started engineering, there were a lot of people that enjoyed security, but no one really took it serious. Can I get just a quick show of hands? How many people are engineers? Professionally, yeah. So we got a lot of engineers in here. Do your companies take security serious? I mean, hopefully you guys do, because you're here, or you people do, right? Okay, so for the people watching later on, nobody raised their hand that that their companies took security serious. So, like a lot of you, I take security very serious. I take it serious in my day-to-day job, but the companies that I've worked for in the past have not always taken it serious. Thankfully, I'm at a place now that does take it serious. But yeah, when I was getting started, I was confused why these companies didn't take it more serious, and I started doing some reading, things like 24 Deadly Sins. I actually didn't read that one. I think it was 10 Deadly Web Sins or something like that when I first started. And I started poking holes in the applications that I was working on professionally, and man, companies get really mad when you start rooting their applications and like finding, all types of stuff like Stack Overflow and so I started branching out and getting away from what I was working on and started doing things like getting into bug bounties and virtual, like Vuln Hub, things like that, Hack the Box. But as far as the books that I used to get into it, I started with the Deadly Sins and these hacking books like this, like Violent Python. And I also did a lot of, I read a lot of the penetration testing book and the open source intelligence techniques. Has anybody read any of these? A lot of these should look familiar. These are pretty big in the community. I also, I wasn't going to add these, but obviously Kevin Mitnick just passed away. Unfortunately, a huge loss to the community. My first Defcon 22, I didn't know him personally, but I did have an opportunity to meet him. I got him to sign a copy of one of my books. I was so fortunate. I still have it, and I have one of those cool laser cut lockpick key cards that he had. So if you don't know who Kevin Mitnick is, I highly recommend you learn about him, learn about his story. He was a huge loss to the community. But those are two great books by him. He has a bunch of books out. Those are my favorites. And then, does anybody know what Stuxnet is? Yeah, a lot of us, we should all know what Stuxnet is. Countdown to Zero Day, that one, I'm pretty sure that's about Stuxnet. And if you're doing any type of bug bounty or red teaming, you should definitely have the hacker playbook in your arsenal. I had number 2 and number 3, and I tell you, every single time I'm doing anything, that's the first book that comes out. And it doesn't matter how many times I've done it. I'm definitely not an expert. I don't want to come across as an expert, but every single time I start to do a vulnerable virtual machine, hack the box, a bug bounty, doesn't matter, hacker playbook comes out, and I start going through the tools and going through the motions. Because a lot of what we do is a methodology. A lot of what we do is repetitive, okay? That's gonna make sense here in a second. So here are the tools that we're using. These should all look familiar to you. We have Kali Linux, Parrot, then obviously the platforms, BugCrowd and HackerOne, Hack the Box, VulnHub. These should all be familiar. If not, dig into these tools. These are going to be your bread and butter. Okay. Okay. So that's the story of like how you kind of get into this, how I got into this stuff. Now I want to talk about you and how you're interacting with bug bounties. Okay. So the bug bounty hunter's story. So the first thing we do when we're looking for a bug bounty is we head over to something like BugCrowd or HackerOne, right? And you find your favorite flavor of your whatever bug bounty program you want, and you pick it and you start reading their description. You start going through what they want you to find, what domains they want you to look at, the scope of your program that you're going to work on, right? So today, we're going to look at the Twitter bug bounty, okay? Has anybody here taken part in the Twitter bug bounty? Okay, so we got a few people, great. I'd definitely be interested in speaking to you after and hearing about your experience and seeing if it aligns with this at all, okay? So if we look at the Twitter bug bounty, they give us a scope of these domains here. I think there's 7 there, okay? Now, are we just going to start digging into these 7? Are you just going to go to twitter.com and start hammering on it? Raise your hand. Who's going to do that? Okay, good. I'm happy nobody raised their hand. That's probably the least effective way to take part in a bug bounty program, okay? Because from an engineer, we have a lot of engineers in here. Everybody knows that engineers, when we're developing something, we're developing a golden path. Even if we don't know we're developing a golden path, we develop a golden path. A path that we expect all of our users to take, okay? And the engineers at Twitter, I don't know any of them, but I guarantee they expect you're going to type in twitter.com, and that's going to take you to their landing page. And then you're going to go to the login or to the sign up. And then you're going to end up on your Twitter profile. There's a golden path they expect you to go through. And I promise you that they have spent millions and millions of dollars hardening that attack surface. If you go to twitter.com today and you get in with admin or any SQL injection, I will give you my next paycheck. That is not going to happen, okay? Those are hardened targets. We don't want those targets. What do we want? Does anybody know? Shout it out if you know. What do we want? All right, that's okay. We want the side door, the window that's unlocked and open. We want the thing that they forgot about. I want the SSH server that has default credentials. I want the FTP server that has anonymous login. I want the dev environment that some intern set up 6 weeks ago and nobody noticed that it's public facing and that it has some critical flaw in it. Those are the things I want. And a lot of people think those don't exist. They do. I promise you these things exist, okay? I recently found I can't, obviously, if you take part in bug bounties, you can't name names, but I recently found an SSH server on a non-standard port with default credentials for a major ISP. So, it happens. And I mean, this is recently, it just happened, I encourage you to not take the golden path. That's really the key to being successful with this stuff. So this is where the struggle begins, all right? Trying to get off the beaten path, all right? We want to first figure out what our subdomains are, which actually there's a CTF going on next door for the Recon Village for doing subdomain enumeration. So I encourage you to try it out. But you'll be using things, this is not a comprehensive list, there's probably a lot of tools in here, but there's a few tools that you probably use to do subdomain enumeration. You got Subfinder, Sublister, Amass, right? And we're gonna take those 7 domains that they gave us for our scope, and we're gonna put them in there, and we're gonna see how many results we get back. Now, I have the actual number, I did this. I want to know, does anybody, except for the people that actually did this program, does anybody know how many subdomains I found just off those 7? Throw out a number. Anybody? Any guesses? 200? Anybody else? 5,000? I don't want to hear that guy. I know him. No. So I did this and I found, it took a second for it to load because there are so many. 1,449 subdomains, okay? It's a ridiculous amount. Now, what's the problem? Can anybody tell me what the problem is with this number? Reminder, I did not do anything. I just found the subdomains. So what's the problem with this? Anybody? They're not all active. That's right. You nailed it. That's exactly it. They are not all active. So we have to enumerate this massive list now and find which hosts are actually up and active, okay? Because if we don't, we're going to be running scans against things that are totally dead, and it's going to be just wasting time, burning time. So yeah, we need to figure out what hosts are active. Then we're going to start, after we have our up list, we got to do our port scans and figure out what services are running on those hosts. Then you're going to start running then you're really going to start getting into the nitty gritty, right? You're going to start doing your script scanning with like Nmap. You're going to run your NIC2 against their web servers, WP scan, everything, right? And then obviously that bullet on there, the telnet, web dev, FTP. You know, I found, once again, it's another bug bounty, so I can't say exactly who, but there was a government site that actually takes part here at Defcon quite frequently. They had an insecure web dev server, and I was able to start manipulating files on their server. So this stuff definitely exists. Get off the golden path. I can't say that enough. That's really important. So yeah, this is going to turn into thousands and thousands of requests that we have to make in order to fully map the attack surface, because that's what we're trying to do with our Recon. We're not actually breaking in anything with Recon. We're not really. A lot of this is passive until we start getting the actual scanning. But we're trying to map out the attack surface and figure out where the weakest points are, so that we can start poking at those points and try and win a bounty. Like that's what we're here for. The less time you can spend doing this, the more money you're going to make. That's really what it comes down to. I think everybody should know that. So one final thing that you're going to run into as a bug bounty hunter is this thing called GeoDNS. Now, this is not a trick question. Does anybody know what GeoDNS is? It's in the name. Yeah, right here. You know what it is. Okay, so if you don't know what it is, that's fine. It's not a security mechanism by any means. Okay, GeoDNS, it improves the user experience in some cases. Like it'll help if you're in Germany, okay, or you're in Australia and you're trying to pull up google.com. You know, you don't want to have to connect to San Francisco, okay? You want a server that's close to you to resolve. That way your experience is fast. There's also some other reasons for GeoDNS, like laws, you know, where data can be stored and can't be stored, things like that. So there's a lot of reasons for GeoDNS. But you as a bug bounty, it's great for everybody, okay? There's nothing wrong with GeoDNS. It's great for everybody. You as a bug bounty hunter, however, this is horrible, because this means you're missing everything else. Like if there's a company that has GeoDNS enabled and you're in you know, Alberta or you know, I don't know, Illinois or whatever, and you're making requests, you're going to get the servers here in North America. You're not going to get the ones in Germany. You're not going to get the ones in France. You're not going to get the ones in Sweden or Australia or Africa. You're going to get the ones here. And your whole bug bounty is going to be against the American servers, which I promise you are probably pretty hardened. So we want to see those other servers. We want to get around GeoDNS, all right? And that's kind of what this diagram right here is one I ripped off from Microsoft. I'm pretty sure this is like the Azure GeoDNS system, what they have set up. It's not important. So how do we do that? There are lots of ways that we can get around GeoDNS, okay? I'm going to show you the ways that exist, and then I'm going to show you the way that I created, and I'm hoping that you like it. So we adapt and overcome. Very simple. VPNs and proxies, right? That would be our way to get around it. The problem with VPNs and proxies, though, especially when you're talking about a global company, one that has, you know, servers all over the world, is that you're going to have to maintain a VPN in every region, and you're going to have to maintain proxies in every region. Okay, you're going to have to have these set up, and then you're going to have to manually switch between them unless you're good enough to script switching between them. All right, and then you're going to have to manually rerun all these commands in every region. Okay, and as in a lot of your engineers, we know when you have to do things repetitively by hand, it is error prone, okay? Constantly you're gonna have bugs, you're gonna miss things. It's very repetitive. You're spending a lot of time at the keyboard instead of getting outside, I mean, enjoying the sun. Get out, I know a lot of us don't enjoy the sun, but for those of you that like to get outside and enjoy the sun, you're missing out on that because you're spending it at the keyboard, okay? And that's where Ensemble comes in. So Ensemble is a new tool. It's a new platform that I created. I spent about 1.5 years writing it. If you look at the code and you know Python, it'll be apparent that I crammed it out in a 1.5 years. But it's a new tool. It's open source. It's totally free. And what it does is it allows you to set up a globally distributed cluster of machines, of agents, that report back to a web portal, a master node, that you can distribute commands across. It's very easy. This program will let you take, so for example, I'm doing the bug bounty next door for the subdomains. There was like, is anybody else doing that CTF? The subdomain CTF for the Recon Village? Okay, so since you're not doing it, I'll tell you, there's 15,000 domains in a Word file that they're giving out, and you have to figure out how many subdomains you can find, right? And whoever comes up with the most wins. I'm pretty sure those are the rules, right? Something like that. So everyone over there is hammering on their keyboards right now, trying to crank out as many subdomains as they can. I actually have a cluster running right now. I opened it up, I took those 15,000 subdomains, I dropped it in here, it distributed it across my cluster, and I'm actually competing in the CTF right now while I'm giving this talk. And it's not doing it one at a time, it's doing all of them at once, simultaneously. And all I'll have to do when it's done, when the jobs are done, it'll pop up a notification, it'll say, hey, your work is done. I go into the job output, grab all the results, and I'll probably run them through like, a unique filter, like a sort unique or something like that. Make sure I don't waste your guys' time like having to dig through finding unique ones, but I'm gonna find a lot of them. I'm probably gonna place pretty high on the list. I'm hoping, we'll see. But that's essentially the long and short of what Ensemble is. It allows you to take commands, take huge amounts of targets, and distribute this workload evenly across your cluster. It also allows you to bypass things like GeoDNS. That's what this diagram is here. So on the far left here, this is you're the user, okay? And you have a command you want to run and some targets you want to run it against, okay? You issue that command to the director, which is your master node, okay? You do that through the web portal here. And the master node says, okay, how do we want to do this? Do we want to do it in a load balanced fashion, which is what I'm doing with the subdomains over there. I said, do it in a load balanced fashion, which means it's going to take all the targets and break them up across my cluster. Or you can do it, in a way where it runs the same exact command and against the same exact targets in every region, which is how you bypass things like GeoDNS. And that's what this diagram is showing here. So in this diagram, we're running a command. The director issues it across the entire cluster, and each of these agents in the cluster are going to reach out to the GeoDNS traffic manager, which we don't control. That's somebody else that's controlling that. Each of these agents are going to reach out to the GeoDNS traffic manager, and they're going to say, hey, resolve this domain for me. And the traffic manager is going to say, okay, well, if you're in North America, South America, or Central America, you guys are all going to go to this server over here, right? However, if you're in, Asia or Europe or Africa, you actually each get your own server that you're going to, okay? And it's going to run these commands against each of these servers. Now, if you're a bug bounty hunter and you're not doing this, you're only going to get that one server in your region, and you're going to miss the rest of them. So this is opening up the attack surface for you to find more things. And I guarantee you that there are servers out there in other regions that are a part of bug bounty programs that nobody is seeing, okay? I guarantee you. So here's an example of the workspaces. So I have it set up so you can actually run multiple bug bounty programs at once. I actually have a couple bug bounty programs in my live cluster right now. and the CTF is not interfering with them because I have it in a different workspace. So if you're running a Twitter CTF or a Twitter bug bounty and a SpaceX bug bounty and a Google bug bounty, you can do all of those, have all of the results separated, and be able to parse through them easily. So that's what the workspaces are. Here's an example of the, and don't worry if you can't read this. I actually have a video that I'm going to show at the end. It's a very short 3-minute video of it actually working. This is the agents page. It shows you your active agents and their health status, the last time they've checked in, how many jobs they're running. You can drill into the agents. That map in the front was actually where the agents are positioned. So this is actually my cluster right here. I have one in southern Australia, one in southern India. I think that's Germany, or yeah, I don't know, one of those European countries, and then one in Toronto. But you can have as many nodes on the cluster as you want. It's up to you. You can, ideally, you would have one in every region of the world, on every continent, maybe a couple countries. But yeah, so that's what this is. This is the agents that are alive, and then you can drill into it and see their health status, their CPU usage, their memory consumption. You can restart the agent, all types of stuff. But so it gets better, okay? I feel like I'm selling this to you, but it gets better, all right? Not only do you have all the capabilities that I've talked about, but you also have the ability to schedule these jobs. So another big problem that bug bounty hunters run into is they do all their recon at the beginning, and then they spend the rest of the bug bounty doing what? Trying to poke at it, right? They never run their recon again. They run it once. However, companies don't exist in a vacuum. There's always going to be intern schmuckatelli out there who's setting up some stupid service that's public facing that gives you access behind their application firewall. There's always going to be that way. So if you only run your recon one time, you're going to miss when he does that or she does that, okay? What you can do with Ensemble is you can schedule these jobs to run daily, weekly, monthly. You can also schedule them to run at a specific date and time. So if you are working hand in hand with a company and you don't want to blast their environment during peak hours, you can set it up. You can set your scans up to run at 2 a.m. And then you can go to bed, your scans will run, and there'll be the results will be there in the morning when you wake up and you can do your analysis. So that's one feature I really love. I use this quite a bit. It's really nice. This is an example of how we create a job. And you'll see this in the video once again, don't worry if you can't read it. I have some command templates built in. You're able to add your own command templates if there's commands that you like to run frequently. But you have the ability to put your own commands in here. You don't even need a template. You can just fill in the command however you want. And then you can schedule it to run however you want, daily, weekly, monthly. You can decide if you want it to be load balanced or however. And then down here you put in your down at the bottom, you put in whatever targets you want. So what I did was I ran Subfinder, okay? I'm sure you guys have heard Subfinder. That's a subdomain enumeration tool, right? I put Subfinder in there as my command. I said, run it as a load balance command. And then I took those 15,000 domains that they have in their CTF, and I dropped it in the target list, and I hit go. And then I came in here to give this talk. And now that is running, and I don't have to do anything. I can get away from the keyboard. Well, this is supposed to be a video. I have a video I'll show you here in a second. I can get away from the keyboard and not have to worry. All right, so let's take a look at the video here. I have it already queued up. So everything is secure. Oh, hang on. At Defcon, don't want to say that. To the best of my ability, everything is secure. So we'll just start with that. So when you start your Ensemble director, a new certificate and key, PEM are all generated specifically to your environment, so there's no shared certificates or anything, as well as a symmetric key. So even the symmetric key is generated. So the cluster is encrypted. The traffic between the director and all of your nodes is encrypted with a shared key, and you'll see that here in a second. So let's go ahead and log into the site. Super secret credentials there. And then here's the dashboard. And the dashboard shows where your agents are in the world, where they're distributed. And when they go offline, the dots will disappear, and when they come online, they'll appear. Here's where you can set up your workspace. It's very easy to switch between workspaces. Here's your active agents and drilling into it. You can also see what processes are running. So if something's hanging, you can go in and issue a command to kill it. So this is the jobs page. This is the scheduled jobs. Here, let's slow down a little bit. Okay, so here's a scheduled job. This is a scheduled job that ran. Oh, I buried the lead. I didn't even tell you the best part. So the scheduled jobs, all right? It's great that we can schedule these jobs to run daily, weekly, monthly, but what good is it if I have an output of like 10,000 lines? This will actually tell you if lines change between scans. So if you run a scan daily and a new service, a new port opens up or whatever, it's going to show up in your output. And I think I have an example of that coming up here in a second. So yeah, you can see like it's actually saying, hey, look, right here, it's probably hard for you to see, but it'll put where the lines have changed, where there's IPs that have changed or new ports that have opened up. It's really great. I love working with this tool. So this is an example of creating a new command. It's just a simple ping. We're going to ping twitter.com. I have 4 agents in this cluster, so you'll see 4 notifications pop up that the jobs have started. And then you'll see the trickle in that the jobs have completed. It's all asynchronous, so one thing I want to get working, a feature that I plan on implementing later this year is I want push notifications. So like if you have it on your phone, it'll just like buzz. There's the jobs.
How are the agents established?
Good question. So what you would do is you would find your favorite flavor of VPS provider, Azure, AWS. I'm using DigitalOcean in this case. And you would create your server with them, and then you just pull down my repo, and there's one command you run, and it sets it up for you. All the installation instructions so there are, if you don't have like Python installed, like I have all the instructions to get Python configured, and all that stuff is in there for going from nothing, plain vanilla Linux environment to having it running. But I think it's like 6 commands total to get it up and running. Yeah. Good question. I do have a Docker file in there. Do not use it. It's not ready yet. I accidentally checked it in. It's not done yet. But ideally, that's what I want. I want to have a Docker file for the director and a Docker file for the agents. So all you have to do is literally just give the Docker file to your VPS and be like, go set this machine up for me, and it does it. I just ran out of time, honestly. So I'll have the Docker file up here shortly. Or it is open source. I'm encouraging people to give me a hand with it. If you want to take part in this project, feel free to create your own Docker file and create a pull request. I'll add it in, no problem. Almost done. This is the event stream here. It'll show you, I know it kind of looks like ish. A lot of this I crammed in at the last minute, but this is the stream of events that have happened on the server. So if you're kind of confused of if an agent goes offline or if a command is run or not, you can come in here and view it. And then, what do we have left here? That's going to show how to schedule a job. We'll skip past that. It's pretty simple to schedule a job. You just come in here and select your when you want it to run. This one's actually supposed to run now, 7 minutes ago, so my cluster probably just ran this. I set it up to run on the 11th of August at 5:40 p.m. So against Twitter. So that one actually should have just executed. And then what do we have? There it is right there. It shows that it's scheduled. And then finally, these are the settings. So up here, I'll show you up here at the top of the settings when it gets there. So up here at the top of the settings, when you start your Ensemble director, it will generate your private shared key for you here. And this is actually the command you're going to run on your agent machine. So you pull down the code on your agent machine, you run this command in the directory, everything gets hooked up automatically for you. You don't have to do anything else. It's pretty straightforward. Not a ton of settings in here. You have the ability to change your password and stuff. But down here, this is where you would edit your command templates. So if you have your own favorite tools and your own favorite commands that you want to run, you can easily add them in here, and then they'll be available in your create job, and you can just blast them off whenever you want. Or if you don't like the ones I put in here, you can delete them. That's pretty much it for the demo. Everything, like I said, is available on my GitHub. .NetRussell.com. The tool is called Ensemble. It's free and open source and available now, and I encourage, like I said, anybody that wants to take part in helping me develop this, please do. I'm happy to have you as a contributor. And that's all I got. Thank you.